Hi, this is Kaushik.
And this is Deepti.
I'm a cis gay man based out of Bangalore, and I've been active in queer spaces in Bangalore largely for the last 4 years.
And I was this woman who identifies as queer, based out of Bangalore again. But I've worked in queer spaces in Chennai since about 2011 or so. So just a
Okay.
disclaimer before we go ahead into the topic. So we're going to talk about a lot of queer topics, but we don't claim to represent the whole queer community or even the whole of Indian community or community's experience as a whole. We're just here to voice out our own opinions and expressing our own personal opinions.
And Deepti and I also acknowledge that we come from a place of privilege, both in terms of our financial standing or place in the society, etc. So we just want to put it across that we acknowledge all our privilege when we have this discussion.
Whether it's caste or class.
Yes.
Or access to education.
Definitely, and I think that's important.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about pride marches and just a brief history as to why and when and the history of pride marches in India.
Yeah. So coming to what is a pride march, I think most of us have heard this term being associated with the queer community in general, and it is essentially one of the biggest annual events for the queer community as well as allies across the world. It brings together members across the spectrum, and what it is it's actually a celebration of one's queer identity, gender expression, and something that we would like to emphasize today. What many people tend to overlook is that it started off as a protest and is still in many forms or in any ways a protest. In the last few years, we have seen people bring out placards about veganism or anti-patriarchy or even making some political statements. According to us, it makes sense that we all do this because we are not just one identity, and one individual's expression on one particular day isn't tied up with just the one identity, like for example the queer identity, etc. And this intersectionality is what makes pride a protest, a celebration, and anything in between as well. It's quoting GLAD here. GLAD is the GLBTQ, Legal Advocates and Defenders, which is a non-profit legal rights organization in the United States. They made this statement a while ago, actually. There can be no pride if it is not intersectional. And they also want to say, we are together in pride. So I think that beautifully sums up what pride is. Right?
Yeah.
World over, it's always in June. And why have we, and I used to initially wonder why it's in June, before I came to the community. Yeah, so with Deepti, would you like to give a brief intro?
I mean, like we were talking earlier, in India, we do it, different states do it in different months, like Bangalore has it in November and stuff. But then, yeah, it's a general thing. It's a global thing that is celebrated in June. The history of this is that in Stonewall in New York, in 1969, there was a huge riot where there was a clash between the police who have been sort of harassing the queer people in that in a Stonewall Inn. So there was huge protest and riot and everything. So marking that riot, every year a lot of people come out and take part and just in the sense reclaiming identity, reclaiming spaces, also on a certain level normalizing the identities and just to show that we're not ashamed, we are proud of what we are, sort of a tone. So this has been happening since 1970. So the same June 28th, 69 was when the riot broke out. So to mark that, every year, June 28th, since then, Pride marches have been happening all throughout the world on in that month and on that day. So in India, the first Pride was in 1999. Happened in Calcutta. It's also one of the oldest Pride march in South Asia. But back in 1999, there were only 15 people who had participated. And interesting to note that none of them were women. So at this point right now, we have about pride marches happening all over the country in 21 different cities. So
Wow, 21 is a big number. I mean, at one point of time, I would imagine like 10 years ago, it was happening only in three, four major cities, right?
yeah, I think till 2009 it was a bit slow in the sense. I think Bangalore. Do you want to talk about the Bangalore Pride since you've been quite involved in the space?
Yeah, so I've attended a lot of Pride events like over the last 3, 4 years. I think
Hmm.
I've the first time I attended Pride was in 2016 in Bangalore, and then the most recent one was 2019. So that makes a total of four Prides. Yeah. So Bangalore Pride was first started in 2008, and it's a umbrella event which spans across the Pride March itself, which is the Bangalore Pride, and then there's also the Karnataka Queer Habba, which is
Hmm.
a series of events that takes place in and around Pride. It's organized by CSMR. CSMR stands for Campaign for Sexual Minorities and Rights, which is essentially a coalition of many LGBTQ and allied groups and individuals, mainly based out of Bangalore. So they're like the
Hmm.
umbrella organization that conducts Pride. So it happened in 2008, and it's been going on. Like if by God's grace it happens this year, this will be the 13th Pride. Yeah, the 13th Pride, 2020. Yeah. So Deepthi, would you like to talk
Yeah.
more about the Chennai Pride?
So Chennai, I've been involved. I went to two, I think two prides. 2011 was my first one. So it's been happening 2000 since 2009, and it's called Self-Respect March, which is Suyamaryada Perani, which happens on the last Sunday of June, and it happens under the banner of Tamil Nadu Rainbow Coalition, which is again similar to how CSMR works. A lot of groups come together to take calls on what happens when and getting the logistics right. So similarly, Kerala has been doing it since 2009. And one thing that I like about how Kerala does this is that they do it in Kochi one year and they do it in Thrissur one year. They do it in a different
Yeah,
city
yeah.
each year.
I think
So
that's something that's missing in a lot of other
yeah,
Pride events as well. Like, yeah, Kerala, they try to be very inclusive geographically. Like, they keep
true,
choosing one major city every year. And I think that's a
true.
really nice move. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you had the Bhubaneswar Pride, which started in 2009. Just to give a few more examples, the Hyderabad Queer Pride or the Hyderabad Queer Swabhimana Yatra. And then you have the Pride di Goa, which also, like, first, I think, took place in 2017. By the way, the Hyderabad Pride took place in 2013.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, for more information, you can always read more about the Pride events, etc. And many of these Pride organizations or organizers have nice Facebook pages where they update details every year. Around the time Pride happens, right? There's a lot of publicity happening. So people are encouraged in their respective cities to just check it out whenever they want. Yeah. Also mentioning one thing about Bangalore Pride that I really found was very nice is Bangalore Pride was the first Pride to become all inclusive,
Hmm.
like in terms of disability, right? I remember volunteering as a part of the disability team in 2017. I think 2016 they had the first they introduced this concept of disability inclusion and Pride, and 2017 I was part of the team, and then I thought that was a brilliant initiative. Like they had tied up with I think the credit should go to Madhu and her team because they're tied up with various uh, vendors like car, taxi people, etc.,
Yeah.
who ferried people from one location to the other, and yeah,
And
and
also the fact that they had sign language interpreters wherever possible. Then, like
yeah,
when
yeah, yeah.
somebody sung, like after the cultural event, I remember after the cultural event,
Mm,
somebody was talking, and then they had somebody who did the sign language interpretation. That was just really, I think,
yeah, yeah,
wonderful thing to
yeah, yeah. And I think
accomplish.
Bangalore was the first city where this happened, and then I think Mumbai also followed later. And it's really nice to see that prides have also slowly starting to become disability friendly. Yeah.
And I think all the spaces need to be intersectional that way because, like we
Mm,
spoke earlier, it's not just we don't just live with one identity, right? I mean,
I know.
we're queer. There's I'm a cis woman. That has its own thing, and then there is a layer of caste, and then there's a layer of language, and then
Language and as a group also, like as a
yeah,
small group of people, we might have one identity which is fundamentally, uh, a new identity from our just like our individual identity, and
hmm,
they all overlap. And I think it's very interesting to see this happening and to see this manifestation of pride. I think that's what
yeah,
makes it really wonderful.
yeah, that's true. So I think
Yeah.
over the years of doing pride marches, organizing and everything, how I feel how it has changed the perception of media or people or the mainstream, people as such is that initially I remember like 2011 and 10 newspapers would only carry articles during the pride, like I think couple of weeks before Pride, or to even say that there are other events happening during the Pride March. So this is the Pride calendar. There'll be some newspapers who will be doing it only during the Pride month. But I think of late in the last 2 years, that has sort of expanded into articles coming up about the queer community, but in not just about cases or people getting married, but there are also articles around DNI or other things that keep coming up. But before all this, I think this is only post the judgment. But before the judgment, I feel the only kind of visibility that the community used to get is just around the pride. So we would try to do as much as possible, organize as many events as possible, just to
Yeah.
make sure to get
Yeah.
the word out, get some kind of conversation started in places.
Yeah, I agree with Deepthi that way, and that's always been the case. Like, visibility is definitely increasing over the last 2 years, and
Hmm.
yeah, and many movie stars, brands, multinational companies. Of course, there's a bit of controversy around that, but multinational companies, even some politicians have come out in support of Pride events, especially on social media, and. Uh, we are not sure if this has led to dinner table conversations everywhere, but they've at least started or initiated conversations in online spaces. Having
Yeah,
ambassadors, yeah, and having non-queer ambassadors also is important. And we noticed
yeah.
that over the last 2 3 years, it's been increasing. Yeah,
I think,
and this helps in normalization of queer identities. Yeah.
yeah. No, I was just going to add that even if it's just in the online spaces, even if it's just that, I mean, I really wish they do more than just have that Facebook frame of rainbow or something. But
Mm.
that feels like a start. But yeah, I mean, I really wish a lot of brands and companies especially do a little more. But for now, I think we should
Yeah,
just be happy with that Facebook frame or like
I know,
I
I know,
support
I know.
Pride
I think
stuff.
that would make a different topic altogether,
Oh,
and that'd be a nice
absolutely.
discussion. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as of now, like what Deepti said, any visibility is good visibility as long as it's not very like coming to this again, like uh, there have been some regional media houses and publications which have not really portrayed pride masses in positive light or queer events in positive light. So that is something that needs to be called out. As long as it doesn't go into that territory, any kind of visibility has largely been positive over the last few years. Yeah, but a lot
Yeah.
more needs to be done, of course.
Yeah. I mean, in terms, like, when you say problematic, I see things like, regional media mostly. I'm not saying all the English media is like, doing it
Mm.
perfect, but then using the wrong terminology or using dead names,
Mm.
that still is pretty problematic.
Yeah, and that's a complete different discussion in
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. So, would you like to talk about your pride experiences, Deepti, or
I
do you think we should go into that space? Like,
Yeah, yeah. So I think, like I mentioned, my first Pride I think was 2011. That was like the first time I was volunteering. That was I was in any queer space which was offline. Till before that, it was like online, finding friends, talking and stuff. So
wow, that
2011.
must have been one experience for you, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So 2011, I think May was when the Pride March. No, not May. I think April was when uh, Pride planning meetings had started. So I
Ah, okay.
went as a volunteer, and then even in the Pride March, I was like, I was still very unsure of if I want to put my face out there. And obviously, I'm pretty mindful about cameras and phones around. So I covered my face. I had a huge volunteer badge. That was 2011. I mean, and my last Pride was 2019, where, Kaushik and you had a bunch of friends, and I had like bumped into a lot of friends. 10 years, almost 10 years of being in the
Wow, must
queer
have been quite
community.
a journey. Like, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was like, I could like figure out everywhere I look. I'm like, oh, this is my friend. Oh, hi, how are you? Hi, how are you? That catching up was so much fun.
I know, and sometimes you look at this person and like, wait, I've seen you in another city. Wait, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Some of them are famous across cities as well,
yeah, yeah.
for the beautiful costumes, the way they present
I
themselves, and they make it
swear.
a point to attend all these events
Yeah, yeah,
every year, and that must require a lot of effort. Like, kudos to them.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and another fun part, I wouldn't say fun part, but I mean, not always fun part, but then, you know, off late, the kind of placards that are out there, the kind of statements are so thought provoking, and some of them are so moving. I remember one of our friends from Bangalore, I think, had a poster about how he came out to his parents. I think that was
mm,
2019. That was,
yes, the recent Pride, yeah.
yeah, that was adorable. I think a lot of it does now come in social media, cameras everywhere anyway, but then being there, experiencing that first time you see the poster and then you look at them with the poster, you're like, I was like, I'll just go give everybody a hug. But with Corona, I don't know if I can do that. But
I know, yeah. Yeah, and speaking of my first Pride was 2016, like I said. In
yeah.
2016, I came with a friend and I was just sulking around because I had not, had not really come out to a lot
Hmm.
of people at that point of time. I was like this guest visitor. I popped in at around 4 o'clock and then I got
Hmm.
intimidated and I left by 5. So
Okay.
I am like, I won't count that as a proper experience, but it's just like a landmark.
Hmm.
Yeah, but 2017 was my first proper Pride
Hmm.
experience in
Right.
Bangalore, and
Hmm.
that was really fun. I mean, I went with a bunch of friends that I already knew. I'd already socialized with quite a few people then, and
Hmm.
I'd come in this nice kurta. I'd coordinated with someone, and we
Nice.
were walking around, and first thing that struck me was the
Hmm.
sheer magnitude of people. So previous year also I noticed all these things, except I was in fear. But now
Right.
I was more, I mean, a little more joyful and more
Little more
accepting of, yeah,
present in the moment.
yeah, present in the moment. And I noticed a lot of things. Like, first thing, it's like a sea of people who are like from different spectrums, wearing
Hmm.
different kind of clothing. Some of them like me who are like pretty low key dressed because I really
Hmm.
don't understand a lot of fashion. But some of them were like these proper, these wearing like, really flamboyant
Yeah.
costumes and very very comfortable in them, and they were looking very comfortable in them, and that really struck me. And then of course, like you said, thoughtful posters. And I was also part of the disability team in 2017, and
Okay.
we were coordinating. So we were basically telling people uh, that making way and coordinating with the cabs and the people on two-wheelers to
Hmm.
make way and give space for them. And it wasn't like an end-to-end thing, like A to B. If A was the
Hmm.
start and end was B, it wasn't like the people who needed to use these cabs were just taken. No, we were also coordinating to stop at particular points so that they could also
Right.
look at, or they could also feel like they were participating. And it was a
Hmm.
wonderful experience, yeah. And 2018 and 19 were also good experiences. And 19, in fact, I was with Deepti.
Hmm.
And you remember we wore black bands for
Yeah,
that
yeah.
pride?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I have political
It was a
statements.
trans bill.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And yeah, like Deepti said, the messaging, some of it is really poignant where you look at it
Yeah.
and you say like, we have come so far. And another thing I noticed in 2019 Pride vis-a-vis 2017 or 2016 was a lot of youngsters,
Yeah, yeah.
like
Definitely.
pre I mean, adolescents and teens, pre-teens, teens, like right from the age of 15, 16, and I'm like, wow, because
And
like
I
when I was
do,
16,
no, I do remember interacting with a few of them, and
yeah,
uh, not necessarily everybody was queer, at least what they told. So it kind of seems like, a bunch of college students who come to support two or three of their queer friends, which is a really good
yeah,
thing.
yeah, I can imagine when I was 16, I wasn't, first of all, I wasn't even out. And
Hmm.
second of all, I don't think I would have got that kind of support at that point of time.
True.
Like, and
I
yeah,
mean,
that was
different times.
one. Yeah, we are from different eras. Yeah. So, Deepti, what else do you think pride means for you? And over the years, like from 2011 to 2019, how has your outlook on pride changed? Like, if it has.
It for me, it still is. I mean, for me, it's not just the Pride March. It's the whole month. It's the
Mm,
whole month for me. All the events, I get to catch up with so many conversations and friends and people who are not necessarily all the time I meet. I have like a close set of friends in the queer circle in Chennai whom I meet like every once in 2, 3 months. I catch up on phone. But then all these other people who we only necessarily see at the meetings, it's actually a brilliant experience to catch up with how things are with them and stuff, especially during the film festival in Chennai. Because I'm in the review panel, when I'm actually at the film
oh,
festival,
Deepti is a
I
big
don't.
shot in the Chennai
Yes,
Film
none
Festival
so
circle.
there.
Yeah, she's a film buff.
So yeah, yeah. So when I'm actually at the film festival, I'm just catching up. Only like few selected movies which I would want to rewatch. I'll go stand in the theater one corner and watch it. But otherwise, it's just even Pride and all the events. It's just majorly catching up, and
I know.
that's the fun part for me.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with what Deepti said, and it's like basically you feel like you are like you feel a sense of solidarity with everyone who's
Yeah,
walking, and it feels like uh, this big bunch of people who you can relate with in certain ways, and
yeah,
it I won't say it's all fun like we discussed prior. Like
yeah,
it's also it is essentially a protest in a lot of ways. We understand that me and Deepti, as as we already spoke about our privileges, and we know that certain people from other spectrums in the queer community definitely have a more raw deal than
yeah,
us and expressing their identities,
yeah.
etc. But yeah, so when you take into cognizance all these things, it just feels like a really nice, uh, what to say, a reality check sometimes.
Yeah,
Pride
definitely.
marches
Definitely.
also, pride marches as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Deepti, would you like to add anything else?
No, I think we'll wrap it up.
Yeah,
So again, hope we educated a little bit and entertained you also with our experiences and everything. And yeah, we're gonna keep at it, do an episode every week. So this is Deepti signing off.
yeah, and this is Kaushik signing off. As I said again, I'm a 50 man from Bangalore, and I'm really excited to talk more with everyone and all the listeners, and also people who want to read more about the topics that we discussed today: intersectionality, pride, the history of pride. Can always look them up online. They're wonderful resources. The GLAD website is good, and Wikipedia also provides a lot of good information about understanding what pride is. And I think Orinam also has good
Yeah,
resources in Tamil, right?
that's sort of what I was going to add. I mean, Glad has, of course, brilliant material, but most of the content on Glad website would be intersectionality per se would be a layer of Black Lives Matter. But if you're looking at the Indian context of it, I think Orinum has some stories and articles around that.
Yeah, please feel free to check them out, and adios. Take care and stay safe.
Mask up and stay hydrated. See you
Oh
next.
yeah, that's really important. Staying
Yeah.
hydrated. Okay, bye.
Oh, okay, bye.